Hi everybody, David Day with D-Day Photographic Art here. I wanted to take a few minutes today to tell you about some texture work that I've been doing. I found that textures can add a lot of depth and a lot of detail to my photographs, particularly the photographs that are made in ICM, and I wanted to share with you a way that textures can be made very easily to suit your needs. All it takes is a piece of a burlap bag. This one came from a coffee bag from Ecuador. They are available on the web for very cheap. I think I paid like 75 cents for this one. And they're available at a lot of fabric stores in your area for resale. This one sold for $1 a pound, and I think the piece of fabric was 3/4 of a pound. Anyhow, you need the burlap bag, cut it in half, get rid of the sides on it, and you're ready to go. Now, what you want to do is we've got this fast dry, high strength spackling compound right here that I picked up at the hardware store. A bit of a spatula to spread it out on that burlap bag. And then a wire brush to do a little bit of cleanup on the spatula, as well as to add some additional texture details to this. So the first thing that you want to do, open the spackling compound and get a little bit of it and work it into your piece of burlap bag here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to smash it down in there. I'm going to not really focus on applying a lot of uniformity to it. I'm going to, let pieces of it drip around and so on and so forth. I'm not going to cover the entire bag. I'm just going to, move this around and partially fill those pieces of open area between the threads in the bag until I get something like this. Now, the nice thing about this is it takes it about 15 minutes to dry. And once it's dry, I can then go into this and I can apply a little bit of paint to this. And I add a little bit of flat gray primer to this just to create a little bit more texture. And if I want, I can take my little brush here, my little wire brush, and I can add some additional texture to it just by going like that. Now it takes these things about 15 minutes to dry, and this is really great if you want to do something like this on the cheap and be able to control your texture a little bit better than what you might get if you go outside and start photographing things outside. So we'll let this dry for about 15 minutes and then we'll proceed forward. Here we are now again with the burlap bag that I've added the texture to with the spackling compound, and I've already sprayed a little bit of gray spray paint onto this. It's a gray primer, available also at the hardware store. And one of the things that I did on this is you'll notice that I was not trying to really be all that uniform with the spray paint, because what I want to do is I want to have the final texture play between those lighter areas and darker areas. Also, one of the things that I noticed with this, and I've been using this old cardboard box to place this on as I do the spackling, it's got a really nice interesting texture to it in and of itself for where the spackling compound came through and ended up on the box. So I'm going to have to experiment with that as well. But anyhow, back to the piece of burlap bag that's got all the texture in it. The next thing that I want to do is I want to take my desk lamp here and give it a little bit of side lighting, because that side lighting really creates a lot of highlight and shadow areas in this piece right here that then are absolutely perfect for photographing. And using my wide angle lens on my Fuji X-T5, I will then simply go into this and I will start making some photographs of that texture from various angles and with various types of lighting, or various angles of lighting as well. And that creates some really interesting images. And what you want to do with this too is not just focus on photographing in the area that has been covered with the spackling compound. Get along these edges too, where you've got a lot of irregularities, and catch them as well, because that creates some very interesting textures. So we'll do that a couple times. We'll catch a few images here. that are going to become my texture overlays. And then we'll go into Photoshop, we'll upload these and begin to manipulate them. So let's go over to the studio right now, and we'll take a couple of these photographs and develop them. Also, this is kind of like good to do with even light that is very, very dim, because it gives a totally different feel to it with a lot of dark colors. So experiment with the lights as well as photographing this from different angles. The first thing that I want to do is move my image into Photoshop so that I can begin to manipulate it and prepare it to be a texture overlay for an existing image. Once I have the image into Photoshop, the first thing that I'm going to do is open up Camera Raw and adjust the exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows. This will be followed by some minor adjustments in the texture, clarity, and dehazing options available in that software package. At this point, if the texture overlay contains a lot of colors that I don't want to impact the final image, I will go into the hue and saturation options in Photoshop and I will desaturate the image. An alternative to this is just to select a black and white image, which will automatically desaturate the texture overlay. From this point, the image can be modified in multiple different ways. I have a program called NIC 6 Silver FX that is designed to give a lot of options in adjusting black and white photographs to be just as you want them when you're producing a texture overlay. Once the file is as you want it, save it out to your hard drive. Then invert the image so that you have the exact opposite of the image or its negative, and save this out as a new file name. That way you will have both the original image and the inverted image to experiment with when you are producing overlays. Each of these images can produce vastly different effects when they are layered on top of an existing image. After you have created and saved the two texture overlays that you wish to apply to images, open the image that you want to apply those texture layers to. The next objective is to place the texture image on top of the image that you wish to texturize. This can be done with a simple cut and paste operation or by just dragging a copy of that texture layer on top of the image that you're going to modify. If necessary, do a free-form transformation of the image to stretch it across the entire canvas of the image that you're going to texturize. The free-form option can be found under the Edit menu. Once the texture layer is in place over the image to be modified, go to the Layers panel on the right-hand side of Photoshop and experiment with the different blending options in the top layer. In this example, Overlay was used as the blending option. After blending of the images together, I flattened the image and found that the reds were a little bit more saturated than I would like. This was corrected by going into the hue and saturation options in Photoshop, selecting the red hues, and desaturating just by a small percentage. Here is the final image of the blending operation. Note how the texture layer mixed in with the original layer created an entirely new look and feel to the image. It has a lot more depth and a lot more detail than the original image, which makes it a more compelling image for individuals to view. I encourage you to take the time to look at different YouTube videos on different ways that you can make texture in Photoshop. All of these textures on this page were created from the original texture that I used throughout this presentation using a variety of different methods available in Photoshop. And the nice part about this is that if one texture doesn't work, you can continue to modify it until you get a texture that suits your needs. So please take the time to look at the different YouTube videos available on this subject and adjust your textures to be what you want them to be for the images that you have created.